So when I was walked in this morning, there's two things. Jay Washington posts this thing. This is the first thing.
He does a lot of posting.
He does, but
I love it.
This one that he posted really it got me because it goes back into what we were talking about with this Rudolph movie yesterday.
Oh God!
This is the first part of it. The first part of it is that where is this thing? Jay Washington posted. There was a comedian. I got to see that he was an ex Saturday Night Live writer, right? And so he was at a college event, and he was booted from the stage for offensive jokes.
Oh,
okay. So here, this is the joke. He is former Saturday Night Live writer and comedian was booted mid-set while performing stand-up comedy at an event hosted by Columbia University's Asian American Alliance because his jokes were deemed racist and homophobic. So Nimish Patel, an Emmy Award nominee and the first Indian American writer for SNL, has in the past opened for comedians Chris Rock and performed at the Late Night Show with Seth Meyers, but those credentials apparently weren't enough to win over the mostly college crowd at Friday's Culture Shock Reclaim. So during Patel's set, the 32-year-old comedian joked that being a gay black man can't be a choice because no one looks in the mirror and thinks, this black thing is too easy. Let me just add another thing to it, the report said.
Yikes.
So halfway through the set, AAA members reportedly jumped on stage, stole Patel's mic, and asked him to wrap it up. Patel denounced the move, telling the audiences he was discussing things in the real world, but the coordinators cut his mic before he could finish. The reactions to Patel's booting were mixed.
What was Jay's opinion on that?
He thought it was ridiculous that they removed him from the stage.
I have to say that I thought that was kind of a funny joke. Does that make me a bad person?
No, I think it was funny too for what he was trying to say.
It's not making fun of any of those. It's
no.
He actually was
like
culturally
he's saying
saying
that obviously it's not a choice because why would somebody make that choice?
It's so he's actually
Well
it's a
said.
harder life.
he's sympathizing.
Yeah. Okay.
And so no, I think we're all on the same page.
I mean, a white guy's not going to say that.
No, but the point is though, this is where it gets a little muddy because did they ask him not to do any racy material whatsoever?
The show was called Culture Shock Reclaim.
I know.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is because here's the
It's
thing.
not for kids.
It's for college kids.
Yeah.
But again,
College kids are so
this is
sensitive
where I
now.
stand as far as my stance as far as comedians and should be able to say what it's part of their job. But again, to be fair on the other side, if they asked him, we want to keep it kind of clean, kind of family oriented, kind of simple, don't do racy stuff.
Do they do that sometimes?
Sometimes
When you
depends
do-
on the. It depends
Yeah,
on the.
if you go to a business gig or if you go to
But
a
at,
corporate gig,
at college,
colleges you have to be clean.
It depends on It depends. It just depends. So, but anyway, so if they had that conversation with him, and even if he did that joke, in no world do you cut off the man's set.
yeah.
No.
Unless it's like something where it's like
Michael Richards.
Kramer,
Yeah.
who's screaming like that.
But they called that racist and homophobic.
Right. So it wasn't at all. It was more sympathetic to what he was trying to. We all see what he was trying to go for. But the point is, you don't cut off his set, even if again he broke that rule and said, don't do anything racy, and he did it. What you do is you wait for him to we had an agreement. You broke that. We are not hiring you ever again.
and we're not paying you for this one.
And or unless that was agreed on, whatever that might be. But then that's the one thing. Now, if they didn't agree on it, what do you expect? The man is a comedian who wrote for Saturday Night Live. You hired him because of stuff that he did in the past.
Yeah.
This
Isn't on national television.
This is bullshit. If that's the case.
How do you think we will find that out?
I mean, people could ask him. If he was in the room, I'd ask him the question.
I'd like to see a follow up to this for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I'd like to see what the actual. I don't know the full story yet, but from both those scenarios, if they just cut the guy's mic off, in general, you don't do that. You have a conversation with him. If again he starts screaming racial slurs and he's doing the mic, then you get him out of there.
Yeah.
This was a joke. Maybe you didn't like the joke. Maybe it was racy or whatnot, but you don't cut the man's set off if you've hired the comedian.
That's wild.
Crazy.
I don't get it.
Yeah, there's a lot. And this
Especially at such a liberal place like Columbia.
well, that's probably why.
Yeah, but
That's probably why because this goes into the bigger conversation. I think that we've talked about this on this show many times. There are a lot of people out there fighting the good fight and the right fight, and they fight it the right way. We are getting to a place that George Carlin used to say sometimes, the pussification of America.
Right.
Yes.
Because that thing yesterday with the Rudolph was, absolutely ridiculous when it comes to the Huffington Post stuff. Now, this is another thing. I don't know if you've heard about this. I'm really curious to get your opinion.
There was
on
that
this.
Probably a
fake meme
different
going
one.
around.
You might have a different opinion, but I want to know because this to me is something that maybe I'm just not seeing it from a different lens. You know the song "Baby I'm Cold Outside."
Mm-hmm. Baby, it's cold outside.
Baby, it's cold outside. So radio stations are now banning this song, this classic 1940s song, because they're saying it's date rapey. That
it's so date rapey.
You
Is
think
it?
it is?
Oh yeah.
Let me look up the lyrics.
No, it's pretty date
Baby,
rapey.
it's
This is something
cold
I've
outside.
discussed with other people.
1940s song that from back in this.
We're reverting to the 40s.
No, it's
That's what it was. But you think people were giving roofies and stuff back then in the 40s?
No, but I mean the sound of it is, if you really listen to the lyrics of just like, she's trying to leave.
It's a flirtatious song between two
but
lovers.
it's like,
Yeah.
well,
They
no,
sang it
Oh,
out.
yeah, I
outside.
really can't
Stay,
say.
baby, it's cold outside.
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I don't have a
It's
I
not
just
like
think
I forced her to stay,
Right.
wouldn't
Yeah.
let her out the door.
I pushed
she
her
tried
head.
to leave.
Yeah, right.
She
shoved
chained
her
in my
down.
basement.
I think even
pressed
SNL
her
did a
against the
sketch
door.
once where it was that people acting it out, and it seemed very.
I could get why it would. I just know. I don't know what to.
I
This
just think,
world
I think
is.
people are just looking for
yeah.
anything to pull at this
There's
point.
some real things that people should be pulling at,
Right, what's-
and this is just not.
What's the other one? There was
Did
another
you?
one too.
There was that fake meme that go around that everybody
Oh.
kind of overreacted. I tweeted it and I got fooled. Was that TBS was pulling the Christmas Story marathon because of the bullying scene was wrong to have in a movie, and
which
I was
is
like,
not-
oh my god.
But the funny, and this is what I brought up to Riley
Yes.
this morning. I said that even though it was a hoax, like 10 years ago, we would have been like, that's BS.
Right.
But because we all went, what are you doing, TBS?
Right.
Because you realize it could happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's like everything.
That's what's scary.
Everybody's offended by everything.
Yes.
And
100%.
everybody wants everything shut down. You can't say, like, the comedian thing scares me. The
Yeah.
comedian thing really scares me because
That's freedom of speech right there.
it's one thing if you want to go after somebody's tweet, and even then that's a platform. But if you want to go after their tweet, and that's fine. If they say something in like a Starbucks, or they say something in a conversation that offends you, or in like a business meeting, but in that guy's platform to what you hired him for, and we start doing that, like. I saw Brian Holtzman, who's one of my favorite comedians. If you don't know who he is, he's an absolute madman. And it was during Mitzi Shore's passing, the memorial service that they had at the Comedy Store. He said the most offensive stuff that you will ever hear, ever, and it was hysterical.
Yeah, but you got a room full of comics,
and there were a lot-
and comics just don't get offended. I just don't get offended.
You're not wrong. But what I'm saying is he was doing that on the stage. Now, if that person from one of those rooms would have been there inside of that thing, doesn't matter if it was Mitzi's thing. They would have been offended by it. There would have been a tweet about it, and that is BS. You should be able to joke around on the stage. That's what the stage is for. It's for satire. It's for these.
There are so many different comedians that have come out on Twitter, female, male, black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter, and they've all pretty much said the same thing. If you find a joke offensive, don't laugh.
Right.
That's all. Like it doesn't. You don't have to attack a person's career.
Right.
They're not going full on Michael Richards. They are making jokes.
You don't get offended by literally anything, Makuga?
I mean, unless you, I was offended by, like Lilo Brancato being part of a murder of a police officer.
Yeah.
I was offended by that. I'm offended by
But
things like that.
joke-wise, I mean,
Never.
There's never been a show where any of you guys have seen that you've been.
I have. And I've talked about it before too. I thought that Amy Schumer's joke about Steve-O after his friend had just passed, like
when they were doing the roast.
Yeah, like 2 days before he said the wrong friend died, like right after the guy's friend died. Like I think that if she would have made a joke about that with my friend while I was on stage, I would be furious. And like that's not a roast.
Yeah,
That's not a roast
I mean,
joke.
death is something that if
Yeah.
it's
It's not that funny.
it's not.
It wasn't.
It's not.
It wasn't funny, and it was really tasteless. And I just didn't. I didn't like it, that particular thing. But that to me, and and the argument came back to me. It was a roast. What do you want? What do you want her to do? And
But there's
that's
always
part
those
of it.
roasts where they attack Pete Davidson about his dad dying in 9/11. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm always like, guys,
it's more so him self-reflecting on that. No one really. I don't think, as far as I've seen, people actually joke about. It's him making the joke. I haven't actually seen people make the joke against him.
I think that
I
a couple
think
people
I have.
But
Yeah.
but here's the difference with that.
Because he opened the door, they thought it was okay.
Yes, but
Sure.
the difference is he also cleared it.
Yeah,
and he also
sure.
cleared it, and he knew it was coming. It's okay it's not off limits. This blindsided Steve-O. He had no idea it was coming. He was furious about it, and
He said that in
Yeah,
the po-
yeah, and he should have been. And it was devastating for him. He just lost one of his best friends 2 days before, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that to me is that's the only time I've really been offended by jokes.
But I know that people are sensitive. I think there's just a level of sensitivity that we're getting to now that is absolutely absurd.
Yes.
Is it okay to just be offended? Like that is
Sure.
right.
Yeah.
Because I think I've been offended by jokes before, but I just kind of sit there and I'm like, well, that was a little offensive.
Right. And you didn't go on a crusade.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless what you're saying is like, I'm nervous you're going to attack somebody physically. Like,
100%. That's not a joke.
Right.
Yeah,
And Michael
yeah.
Richards should have gotten exactly what he got.
Yeah.
Yes.
That should have went viral. I mean, that wasn't funny. That was a dude who snapped and said the most disgusting things you can possibly say,
Right.
and he got busted for it, as he should have.
Yeah.
But
not,
this
like-
was a guy that was telling a joke, and I
I don't even think it was that edgy.
I think it was sympathetic to
people's plight.
He's a minority.
Yeah.
It was yeah. So I mean, it was. That's just where we are as a culture right now, man.
I mean, listen, if I was a certain, a certain victim of a certain thing, I would get offended by a joke about it. I guess I've just been lucky in my life that I don't get offended too easily by a lot of things because, like, maybe I just personally haven't been locked into a situation where, like, that is offensive.
Right.
You shouldn't be joking about that. And I did say something to Jeremy Johns. We were talking about, and he knows we've talked about it before. He said something about the troops invading D-Day and compared it to something. I was like, dude, let's ease up on the clutch with like comparing invading D-Day to like a superhero movie or something like that. And he was like, "What's too soon?" I was like, both my grandfathers were in D-Day, and they wouldn't like that joke.
It was personal.
Yeah.
Okay, let's. I like these conversations we've been having the last couple of days, guys. I'm telling you, I think the fans did too, except that one guy. What are they talking about, Captain Marvel?